girl.
Hi.
Let me get in camera. Hold on. I'm off to the side. I'm like, hey, girl. Get your life. Come on over.
Welcome to the life. Yes.
Girl, you got your wine?
No. I slipped up this time. I do have. Wait a minute now. You want me to get into it? I will get into it. Okay.
Uh-oh.
All right. Yeah.
Yes, honey. Yes, I'm stronger. Yes. But of course, welcome guys to another episode of In the Divas Den. Thank you for joining us. We're super excited about our episode this evening. We have some very special guests who are going to put us on game, and we try to get y'all right. We know 2020 is not doing anybody right now, but we want to make sure that when y'all come out of this, that you got this. Okay? Hey now, hey. But first, you know how we always started off, we got to do our check-in. We want to hear from you guys. How are you doing? A lot of people I know are going back to work, and that's something that we will discuss later on in the show. But we just want to know mentally, are you in a good space? How you doing, Precious?
I'm doing great. Got some good things in the pipe. Sound very corporate right now,
right?
But feeling good about where life is going. 2020 has definitely not been what I expected. I plan to do some traveling this year. That's definitely not happening. But there's still some good things happening in the midst of all this craziness. So, how are you?
I can't complain. You know, I can say the same thing. I was definitely planning on doing some traveling, and it's funny because all of these places outside of the U.S. are having like ridiculous sales, like Dominican Republic, for instance, and we just can't get there. So, so it's very humbling because, wow, I'm so blessed, and I'm so happy to say that I am in good health, that I am okay. My friends are, everyone's doing good for the most part. But I just feel a little spoiled by saying, like, I miss traveling. I really do. I'm getting that bug and that itch.
It's okay to say that. It's okay.
That's all right.
Something that we may have taken for granted for quite some time. So
that part. But girl, come on, let's get into these topics. We might as well go ahead and get to it because we got a lot to get to later on in the show, and we have a very special guest. I can't wait to talk to her. She is entering in the Divas Den, but we got to get into these current topics. And first and foremost, some somber news. We are going to talk about Breonna Taylor.
Yes, what's going on all around the world, the news of 26-year-old Breonna Taylor from Louisville, who was gunned down in her home. She was an EMT worker. She was at home with her boyfriend. She was resting, and they were essentially attacked by Louisville police at the door. The boyfriend, rightfully so, grabbed a gun to defend. He called 911 before the fire started, and they claimed that his shot hit an officer that was outside the apartment, which then prompted them to shoot 20 bullets into the home, 8 of which went into Breonna and killing her instantly. They arrested the boyfriend, apprehended him, saying that he was wrongfully with a weapon and shot a police officer. Come to find out that it may actually have been another police officer outside that shot that police officer, which prompted the fire. And the reason why they were at their home is that they were looking for a suspect in regards to drugs. Neither one of them did drugs. The house wasn't even in the vicinity of where they were. And to make matters worse, the person they were looking for was already in custody. So once again, another senseless killing.
And that's what bothers me most, because I mean, we talked about this. I hate to say it, but we also talked about this last year, where it's almost becoming numbing, because it happens so often that you're just like, here it goes again. Another innocent life is taken. They essentially try to make the Black person, seem like there's some sort of criminal and try to dig up these, pictures and this old information to essentially justify their killing. Now, this girl, they couldn't come up with anything for, because there was no drugs in her system. She was an EMT, just a stellar person, but it doesn't justify the actions on supposedly these people that are supposed to protect and serve. And it's just getting so old. And now they're saying, oh, well, because of this, it prompted the police to wear body cams. Okay. How many times have we seen body cams, the footage of it, and then what? Nothing happens. Absolutely nothing happens.
Yeah. It's what's happening now is that everyone's paying more attention because everyone is no longer distracted about the normal hustle and bustle in life. So people are paying attention to these cases and what's actually happening, and they're like, "Wait a minute, you guys are wrong. This justice needs to be served in this case." And now they're starting to pay attention to what needs to happen. So
Exactly. Exactly. My condolences go out to her family, her boyfriend's family, because two innocent lives, unfortunately, were taken for something so stupid and something that could have been, prevented. But unfortunately, this is becoming an ongoing narrative of, the Black culture, where essentially here come the police and you hope and pray that you can walk away alive.
yeah, I believe the boyfriend is still in custody, but I know Sean King and Al Sharpton, all of them, NAACP, are working with that case right now. So
you know what? I'll keep my thoughts on Sean King. Let's go ahead and go to the next.
Yeah, I'm there with you. But I will say he did bring some attention to these cases, which I guess is a good thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But we'll save him for another show, girl. We'll save him for another show. But one thing we do have to talk about is, stores opening amid COVID, and are we ready? And that's something that I want to pose to you guys. Are you ready? I know here in North Carolina, they have entered into phase 2 where they're going to start opening tanning salons, massage parlors, and certain bars and restaurants, but only at 50% capacity. So, of course, you have the usual business owners that are like, oh, we're happy, we're so excited, and we're taking all these precautions, and we want people to come back, and we're going to do this, that, and the third. And that's great. However, I just still have to keep asking the question of, are we ready, or do we just need to go ahead and accept that this is our new normal?
I think it's a matter of realizing that this is the new normal. I know Ross was open in some places and had a mega sale to the point where a lot of things were 99 cents,
Girl,
49 cents.
Always get these good sales, and I just keep missing them.
Yeah. It's Instagram. This girl, I got the hook up. I'll send it to you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just she racked out. I think she got 2 Kate Spade purses for less than $100 and a whole bunch of stuff. Yes. So I understood. I think she said she waited in line for 30 minutes. I'm not willing to risk the potential exposure for something I didn't really need. So
nope. Yeah. And that's the one question I have to ask, because I started back work this week, and I will say that my job is doing an excellent job with trying to, stay on top of things. And I really appreciate them, but it's just like when people are rushing out and they're going to these places and they're buying these clothes, or, they're going to these so-called appointments that they just absolutely need. And you're doing all this for what? You're coming back home.
Right. Nobody going to see you in the clothes. So what's the point?
Nobody's going to see you in these clothes, it doesn't matter. So why sit here and go through the hustle and bustle of, oh, well, I need to go to TJ Maxx, I need to go to Ross, and, I need to go here. For what? Where are you going? Who are you showing them to? Because if you're practicing social distancing to begin with, you would know that you really can't go nowhere like that.
Exactly.
Which brings me to this story of a Karen. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I shared it on my Facebook. There was a woman, and I believe it was California, who was upset that the store's policy was that she had to wear a mask before entering. Now, she claimed that she didn't want to wear a mask because she had health concerns and a health condition and just all of this, just any reason not to wear a mask, because I guess she thought that she was above the store's policy, asking for the manager, getting an attitude with the cart boy, and just being difficult for no reason. And the store did everything they possibly could. They even offered to shop for her, and she still said no, and that she wanted to talk to corporate. But I'm just like, why the outrage? You're getting what you want. You guys wanted these states to open up. You wanted your stores to open up. You wanted your TJ Maxx to open up. You wanted all of this. And the only thing they're asking you to do on behalf of their staff and for yourself is to wear a mask. And that's still not good enough.
Mm-hmm. I think her name was Sherry. So they was like, Sherry. Let me tell you something about her. She's going to claim that she has a medical condition to which she can't wear a mask. I don't know how that's possible. If it's in regards to breathing, she was doing a lot of talking. So if it really was a problem, she wouldn't have been doing all that talking.
Hello.
So infringing upon my rights and all this other, the normal verbiage. I actually experienced some of that at the post office. I had a brief outing. I was covered. I had all my stuff going on. And there was a woman ready to film someone and talk to the manager because she didn't like how they were talking to her. And I'm like, you know what? Y'all need to go sit down somewhere. Now's not the time for all this.
Please.
Like, people are already on 10 because of everything that's going on. It's all new. And then you adding this foolishness, this faux rights foolishness, just stop.
Exactly. And that's what I don't get. Like, do I like wearing the mask? Absolutely not. It gets on my nerves. I can't breathe. It fogs up my glasses. I'm uncomfortable. I'm fat. You know, I'm trying to breathe and walk and at the same time and see. I'm over it. But I know that is the policy, you know? And I mean, if you're just going into the store to get what you need and get right back out, like there shouldn't be a problem. And even my cousin, you know, she was saying that that's one of the problems that she has with the new normal is that people are deciding to not wear masks. Like, it's something so simple. Essentially, the mask policy is going to be like no shoes, no shirt, no service. So get used to it. It is what it is. Stop complaining, because like you said, if you really wanted, you know, if you wanted to go into these stores and they're doing you a favor by opening up early, which I don't agree with, then look, meet me halfway.
Yes.
Meet me halfway.
Yes.
Please. Please. Appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
But girl, let's move on because we got to get to our guests. So we got to give a shout out, right?
Yes, we do have a shout out for our 2020 graduates, specifically for our college graduates who are experiencing their virtual graduations right now. We have a special shout out to Kiana King out in Illinois, who happens to be my little cousin. She graduated magna cum laude from Mizzou, and she will be moving on to DePaul University in Chicago in their PhD program. So yeah, congratulations to Kiana King.
And shout out to everyone, because I know that this is crazy. You know, I feel bad for, you know, everyone who's going through this, because essentially you've been robbed of your graduation and your experience, and you go through school for this achievement to walk across the stage and you're so proud and all the stuff like that. And essentially that was taken away from you by an idiot in the office. But, you know, I'm still so proud of all of them. Just, y'all did it. Y'all did the damn thing.
Even if you don't have that stage and you don't have people cheering for you, they're still cheering. You did it. You finished what you need to finish. Congratulations.
Hello and good evening. Period. Oh,
yeah, we don't. The working is better.
Okay. All right. What are we doing here?
Is that good? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties.
Yeah. But we good.
Yeah,
yes. We are good now.
Mobile technology. Yes.
It's all good. It is. It's all good. But I definitely want to take this time. We are going to move into the second portion of our show where we are welcoming our guests. We told you guys last week that we are going to have a real estate agent on the show to answer, you know, some of these questions about people who are looking to become first-time home buyers, people who are homeowners and still have questions during a pandemic. And everyone's just a little lost because, I mean, everything has come to a screeching halt. So does that apply for essentially, you know, the real estate market as well? So I definitely want to welcome the Triangle's housewife. I love that. To the show, Miss Shonda. Hey, girl. How you doing, girl? I think you're still muted. Can
you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Good. So how are you doing?
I'm doing really well, actually. My kids are upstairs. Everything is quiet. Hopefully that stays this way, at least for the rest of this talk.
Girl, look, we understand. I got a dog that acts like a child, so you may hear him barking. You know, look, you got to do what you got to do. But we know that COVID has hit us hard. It's affected a lot of people, a lot of small businesses.
Right.
But for someone like you, how has it affected you at all?
So, you know, as realtors, real estate is deemed essential. We have we've been able to work, especially in Wake County. Things kind of slowed down a little bit in Durham County, but we've been able to work. We've been still, this is the spring market, which is normally our busiest time. And, you know, honestly, there was a little bit of a slowdown for the first couple of weeks of like the stay at home. But I've gotten more done in the last month and a half than I did, you know, January and February. So, I would like to say that it didn't do a lot. You know, some of the rules have changed and how we're allowed to show properties and how we're, you know, some of the addendums that are being added to contracts or offers. But ultimately, you know, things are still very much moving forward.
Well, that's good. I'm really glad to hear that, because I really feel bad for a lot of people who just are out of work and don't know what to do. So to know that, you know, you're still able to work. I mean, granted, there are some adjustmts, you know, you're still able to essentially do what needs to be done.
Right. And, you know, there are people, leases are still up, and people who didn't plan to, you know, renew their leases are still looking for homes, and people are still, you know, getting jobs, and people are still having to move despite of all of this. So, like I said, you know, you guys kind of talked about the new normal a few minutes ago, just about shopping and, you know, stores opening and how rules are going to change. It's the same thing with real estate. But ultimately, you know, people are still going to need housing. People are still going to have to, you know, whether they're purchasing or selling, whichever that is happening.
And with that being said, I mean, now that we are in a pandemic, and a lot of people are scared, a lot of people are laid off, you know, or a lot of people just don't have a job to go back to. Mm-hmm. Is this essentially a good time to really invest or to, you know, become a home buyer?
So, and I say this whether we're in a pandemic or we're not, the best time to purchase a home is when you are prepared and ready to purchase a home. So whether that's in a pandemic or it's the best market that there is, you know, if you're not prepared to purchase and they have low interest rates and the housing market has crashed and everything is inexpensive, it doesn't really matter, right? So, or when interest rates are really high, if you can afford it, I honestly believe that investing in real estate is never a bad idea. The market is going to change. It's going to be, you know, high sometimes, low sometimes. It's going to happen. And I think that, you know, selling at a certain time makes a difference, and that you want to make sure that you are on the upside when you're selling your home so that you're not losing money. But ultimately, I just don't believe that there's ever a bad time to invest in real estate. As long as you are able to afford it and you're going to be comfortable with your payment, real estate is an investment that has always, you know, very consistently has gone up in value. It's not going to be something that goes down as long as you are taking care of, you know, your property.
Now, for people who may be interested in being a home buyer, can you kind of lead them through, you know, some of the steps that they may need to take? I know it can be a little lengthy, but, you know, just some of the steps that they may need to prepare themselves when becoming a home buyer.
So, you know, the big thing about purchasing a home is being able to afford it. So that the very first thing that you want to do is to speak to either a real estate agent who could connect you with a good lender, or just talk to somebody at your bank who does mortgages. Once you have the amount that you're comfortable with, you know, a payment amount, what the bank is willing to lend you, you kind of, you know, you can kind of start looking, right? But the few things that lenders look at are your credit score, your debt to income ratio, and your salary or the money that you have coming in, and that it's consistent. So they want to make sure that you have either a salaried position where you have consistent income, or if you are working hourly, that you have at least 2 years worth of tax returns that you can show to prove that you've been making consistent income in the same field for at least the last 2 years. As far as your credit score is concerned, you can get a loan. There are lots of different programs, FHA, conventional, VA, you know, different programs that are available to you. So you can get a loan as low as sometimes even a 540, but a 580 credit score is kind of where you can start. With that, you'll have a little bit higher of a down payment. You'll also have private mortgage insurance that will be a little bit higher, and you'll have a higher interest rate. I always tell people that a good score to shoot for is a 660. Once you have a 660, you are pretty much golden as far as conventional loans, down payment assistance, first-time homebuyers programs, 100% financing with the credit unions. So a 660 is a really good, this is where we should be shooting to achieve and to be at as far as your credit score is concerned. And then, the higher you get, the lower your interest rate, which lowers your payment. So that's where I would say, 660. But if you are really interested in purchasing and you have a little bit lower of a credit score, it's not impossible for you to get a loan and then potentially refinance once your credit is in a better position. And then your debt to income ratio, again, the higher your credit score, the higher they will allow your debt to be. Okay. But there are different programs, different loans that have different requirements. But I always tell you, between 38 and 45% of your income should be controlled by your debt. And that is inclusive of the amount you will have in a mortgage payment. So you want to have, the least amount of debt possible so that increases the amount of money that you can spend on your mortgage. Does that make sense? I did that.
Yes, it does. Now, speaking of debt, I know the biggest debt that usually gets in people's ways is the student loans. People that have a lot of student loans, whether they're in good standing or not, can be a hindrance when trying to get a loan for, home. Now, how does that work now with mostly everyone's loans being in a forbearance type of situation right now?
Sure. So anytime your loan is in deferment or forbearance, a lender is going to look at it in total. So they're basically going to take 1% of your loan amount that is due, right? Of however much you still owe. So 1% of that is going to be against you as far as a debt is concerned monthly. So that can be a really, really high amount, right? The better thing to do, and what I would normally say, is to go ahead and do the, where you only pay a certain amount based on your income?
I think it's the income repayment option. Yeah.
So to do that and to have just a lower payment, whether it's $25 that you can afford, and you can say hey, this is how much I can afford. This is how much I'm willing to give you every month. Once you have that number, that would be the number, regardless of the total amount that you actually owe, that would be the number that they count against you every month. So if you have a $25 a month payment versus a $2,000 a month payment or a $200 a month payment, then that is what they're going to count as far as your debt is concerned. So I always say, if you have the ability to do it, don't go into deferment, don't go into forbearance, because they're going to have to take some number, and the basic number is 1%.
Oh,
yeah. So now with the COVID right now, I know a lot of people's loans have automatically been put into that status because of the government. I believe they pushed it through September of this year, and the next bill that they're passing is going to push it through September of next year. So what is your advice for people who've automatically kind of been put in that place? What should they do? How should they go forward with those payments?
So I actually have a young lady right now who is having a situation like that. And they're basically saying, we're not even checking this again until October because it's forbearance, like you said, until September. So what she's doing, or what the lender has asked her to do, is to contact, her student loan, whoever her student loan is with, to give a letter stating, hey, this is how much she is going to have to pay once this goes back into, once the loan comes back into good standing, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So because she has that letter, the lender is able to use that amount as far as her debt is concerned, knowing that once this comes out of forbearance in September or October, that this is the amount she will have to pay. So it doesn't go back to the 1%. They won't do that, because when she is going to pay it, she'll be paying this certain amount. And the credit, I'm sorry, not the credit, the student loan people have been able to provide that letter to her.
Okay. Good info. Thank you.
And when it comes to, I mean, even just our show or just, following you, for instance, what info or where can people get info to kind of educate themselves prior to? Because things like even what Precious asked, now that we have a new normal, most people wouldn't even think of something like that. So how can people educate themselves?
You want to talk to a professional, because there's so much information on the internet. Mm-hmm. There's so much, your friends only know so much. The people who have purchased a house, whether they purchased a house or they haven't, my suggestion is to just get in contact with a good real estate agent, or just talk to somebody at your bank. Tax people are always, whoever does your taxes, those are people to have good conversations with. If you just want information about kind of what's going on, because things are changing all the time. Requirements are changing, how much money people are loaning or giving, or, income limits are changing, whatever it is. So just talking to a professional, and it's never, ever, 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 ever too early, especially for me to call me. I have people who are like, I want to purchase in 2022. What do we need to be doing today? I literally, right now, have people who are going to be ready in January of 2022. So it's never too early. Ask questions, ask all of them. This is our job. A person who's working at a bank and they're giving you a loan. This is a huge commitment. A $200,000, a $300,000, a $400,000 loan. Yeah. What kind of questions you have and how many times you need to ask them. You absolutely ask all of the questions that you have. And if somebody doesn't know the answer, or if you don't like the answer, ask someone else. I think that myself, I really pride myself in being informative, and, for my clients to understand what it is that they're signing, and to understand what it is that they're looking at and what's available to them. So I always tell you, shop a mortgage, shop for an inspection, whatever it is that we're looking at, be aware of what's going on and really understanding the process. So I just say to talk to a professional, reach out to a real estate agent who you trust and who you feel confident in. Somebody who's done a little bit of work. That would probably be my answer.
Okay, well, I'll be ready in 2025. So, girl, I'll call you.
I hope to be doing this in 2025, and I would love to help.
No, we're not going to say that. I keep saying I'm giving myself 5 years. Right now, I'm down to 3. So we're going to talk. We're going to talk.
All right. We'll talk after this.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And another question that we received were expenses. A lot of people were curious about what other expenses will occur when you buy a house, or when you get ready to buy your house.
So I like to say that if you're going to do a very regular conventional loan, as a first-time home buyer, you will need 3% for your down payment. In addition to that, you'll need your closing costs. Closing costs essentially pay for your attorney. They pay for some money that goes into escrow. They pay your taxes. They pay your HOA startup fee, or, kind of into your HOA for the first couple of months. They will pay your title insurance, for your appraisal, these sorts of things. It's normally between $4,000 and $6,000 as far as down payment is concerned. Then I like to say, outside of your down payment and your closing costs, you have 4 checks. You have your due diligence fee, your earnest money fee, your inspection, and your appraisal. So when you're purchasing real estate in the state of North Carolina, we have what's called a due diligence period. It's a very negotiable amount of time, but it's normally about 3 weeks where you can get your inspections. You're essentially renting the property from the seller to say, hey, I'm going to find out the good, the bad, the ugly about the house. So you give the seller some upfront money to take the house off the market, to have access to the house. And then it also gives you the ability to walk away for any or no reason if you so choose. The only thing about that money is if you do decide to walk away, it stays with the seller. So I like to say that this is about 1% of the purchase price. So let's just say we're buying a $200,000 house. We would give about $2,000 as due diligence. And this is negotiable again. If the house has been on the market for a long time, if we are walking in and we already know that there's probably a lot of work that needs to be done, we would likely give a lower due diligence. Sorry, y'all. We'll give a lower due diligence at that point. So we'll just say about $2,000. If you decide to move forward after the due diligence period, after you find out you got your inspections, you've done some negotiations, the seller has agreed to make some repairs, or replacements or whatever it is. Once you decide to move forward, that money that you've already given to them goes towards your closing costs. So now that $6,000 is $4,000. Okay. So then, so we just did due diligence. Then you have earnest money. I typically give what is like additional earnest money. So I don't give it up front at the very start of our contract. I give it once we've decided that we're going to move forward with the purchase. So after that 3 weeks, we give some money just to the attorney, and they hold the money to say like, hey, you know, if you were to back out at this point, you'd be in breach of contract, and the sellers would be able to say, okay, you know, they breached their contract. We want the earnest money as well. You're not going to breach contracts because nobody wants to do that. And that money also goes towards your closing costs. So now we're from $6,000 to $4,000 to probably about $3,000 that you're bringing to closing. You're also paying for your inspection, which can be between $300 and $500. And then any additional inspections, if you need an HVAC inspection, if you need a termite inspection, those can be, maybe a couple $100 extra. And then other than that, you need your money for the appraisal, which the bank orders. And that just kind of tells you how much the bank can loan you for the house. So an appraiser comes in, they tell you how much the house is worth. And then that is the amount that the bank will give you for this particular house. Regardless of your pre-approval amount, a bank is not going to give you more for a home than what it's worth. So that's kind of that. And they require most of the times for you to pay that up front so that if you do decide that you're not going to purchase the house, the bank is not out any money. So I know there are programs, right, where you can do 100% financing and you don't need that 3%. There are programs where you can do, you have down payment assistance. Those are kind of put on hold right now with COVID just because people have lost some jobs, and North Carolina housing is kind of like, hold on, let's give it a second. But I anticipate that coming back very soon. But so I would say you can absolutely purchase a home with $2,000 if it comes down to 100% financing or you have down payment assistance. I've seen people get money back at closing with 100% financing and down payment assistance. So not everything is 3%. There are other programs, but if you're purchasing a $200,000 to a $250,000 first time home buyer, price range is normally about that. To have $6,000 to $10,000 is a really good amount. You could absolutely do it.
Oh, okay. All right, girl. Look, you didn't give me confidence. I think that this is scary for a lot of people. People are like, I need 20% and I need thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's just really not the case. There are a lot of programs that are, available to you that will help you purchase a home. And, like I said, I think that it's a great investment, and I don't think that it's ever a bad idea. And you can do it. If you have a job and you have an okay credit score,
you can purchase a house.
That's two things I have. Hey now. Hey now. And I guess our last question, because we definitely want to, we don't want to hold you up too much. And then we want people to definitely contact you, especially those who are interested in becoming home buyers. And now that we know, don't be afraid, people. If you want to make the commitment, go ahead and hit up Shonda.
Yes.
But how important is it to find the right realtor? And I'm sorry, my dog wants attention right now. So if you hear him in the background, please ignore him.
I don't hear him at all. So a realtor's job, honestly, is to represent you. A realtor's job is to represent your best interests, to be truthful, to be honest. As a buyer, it's free to you. Sellers pay, realtors commission. So finding a realtor who isn't necessarily all about the money, who's going to sit down and literally answer all of your questions, who you're not afraid to talk to. We all have the same knowledge. We've all taken the same test, but not all of us are.
Girl, let me get my wine.
Are in this for the right reason.
Ooh, the pause was telling.
The more I do, the more I work with realtors, the more involved I am. I realize that we are not all created equally. So I think that a good realtor is just somebody who honestly cares about you, who's not going to let you buy the house with the roof falling off because that's because their commission is what they're looking at, right? Somebody who's going to answer your questions, someone who is patient, because if there are people who you'll call and you'll say, I'm not ready to purchase yet, but I need to know what I need to do, and they'll say, well, here, you call this person and let me know when you're ready, and then that's it. That's the end of it, right? Like that's the only thing that you hear from them. There are agents who submit offers that are incorrect, and so then it's just you just want somebody who is going to do their due diligence, going to be honest with you, and who essentially has your best interest at heart. And I think that you get a sense of that when you meet someone, and when you sit down and you talk to them. And I recommend anybody who is in the market, for purchasing a home, to talk to a couple of different realtors, to email a couple of different ones, other than me. If you reach out to me, then you don't have to shop around. But but I think it's definitely a good idea. Just to, who do you mesh well with, right? Like, who do you have good conversation with? You spend a lot of time with your realtor, whether it's in the car, on the phone, somebody that you just feel comfortable with. That's, like I said, we all know the same thing, but we are not all created equally. And I think that most people will see, just from talking to a couple of different realtors, who they feel comfortable with, and call me.
Hey now. Hey now. Which brings us to the point, if you guys would love to essentially talk to Shonda, she's here. She's knowledgeable, as you can see. Her information is down below. You can contact her at triangleshousewife.com, shondapeoples@gmail.com. You can also follow her at the Triangles. Let me see, where did I put it? Where did I put it? Right here. Yeah. The Triangles Housewife. And just get in contact with her. Like she said, talk to these people. And I'm glad that you said that essentially, this is somebody that you're going to be spending a good deal of time with. So you want to be comfortable with them. Just having a conversation with you, you already give me good vibes. So I definitely want to talk to you. But I encourage everyone, just have the conversation. What can it hurt, right?
Start the conversation. Whether it's with me or a different realtor, have the conversation. Feel comfortable. Get your questions answered. You're never, ever, 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 ever going to be comfortable. You're never going to be ready if you base your readiness on your knowledge. Like, this is not what this is not something that you've studied. It's not something that you're really going to learn exactly what is available to you on the internet. Just get in front of somebody. It's free most of the time. The conversations don't last more than 30 or 45 minutes. And it's just a matter of, like consulting with someone to get the information that you need to move forward. And you should be buying a house, period.
Period, poo. Hey now. And listen to an expert. I know we got somebody in the White House who don't want to listen to an expert, but we listen to experts around here. So, hello.
Yeah.
But Shonda, thank you so much. We are so appreciative that you decided to step into the Divas Den. We cannot thank you enough. And definitely, let us know how, we can help you and vice versa. We would love to have you again if you are. Hey now. Hey now. Oh, she did the shoulder to me. You see it. You see it. This is my realtor, y'all. Hey now. Hey. But thank you so much. We will definitely be in contact with you. And once again, guys, please make sure to follow Shonda at The Triangle's Housewife on Instagram. She's dope, as you can see. And then if you need to get this information again, we will replay it on Facebook, YouTube, and IG. So thank you again, Shonda girl.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, Precious, how you feel, girl?
I feel like that Mr. Crab meme where he just be like, it's a lot. It's too much. Monique, this too much.
I mean, that was a lot of information, but that was 15 minutes worth. So remember, this process is going to take a lot longer than 15 minutes, y'all. So don't feel overwhelmed. Don't feel scared. Just have the conversation. It ain't gonna hurt.
Like she said, that's it. Ask and you shall receive. How about that? Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining us again in Divas Den. We will be back next week, and we love you guys.
Yes, we'll have better internet next week too. Okay, bye.
Girl, stop. Bye, guys.